Greetings and welcome to the Nuclear Option Podcast, where we discuss the politics, the practice, and the promise of family.
From our home to yours, we're inviting you into a conversation about family, not just as a private institution, but a public good.
Well, greetings, my love. Welcome to the inaugural episode of our podcast.
Woohoo!
How are you doing today?
I'm so good.
Awesome sauce.
How are you, my love?
I'm doing all right. You know, it's another day in the life of having a family.
Yes.
So that's a beautiful thing.
Praise the Lord.
Which kind of brings the first thing that we want to talk about, because this is our first podcast episode. And so we wanted to start with just talking about why we are doing a podcast.
Exactly. So, kick us off, love. Why are we doing this now? We have 6 kids. We have so much going on. You're traveling all the time. You're traveling sometimes. All the time. But why are we doing this now?
Well, I think a number of reasons, but probably the main reason is that as we are raising our family and, you know, doing leadership, we lead a church, we're involved in a few things, and just more and more like little things just kept sort of coming up to suggest something little, something big. That number one, that family just as like an anchor institution in our society is a little bit under attack, right?
Right.
Attack from direct attacks from certain, you know, sort of like policy forces, but even more than that, just like under constant sort of like the needling kind of attack that breaks down what it takes to have a family, what it means to have families in our society. I think about, you know, we just had, was it one of our kids when we turning 13?
Oh, no, 12.
12.
This just happened. This was hot off the press a couple months ago.
Yeah, and we like got kicked out of his like medical records. Like
right.
He's turning 12.
I just got it literally the next morning after his birthday. They said, your billing has been updated. I mean, the patient portal has been updated. You now will only receive the billing information. You no longer have access to medical records. And of course, I'm thinking, first of all, this child can't even schedule a doctor's appointment by themselves. They can't get there by themselves. They don't have any of the things. I'm the one who is doing this and making this happen. And yet they're like, this child is old enough and mature enough to handle their own medical choices. And I'm like, even by your own definition, science tells us that the human brain isn't even fully developed until age 25. But at age 12, apparently, they can think about long term.
They make all of their own medical
right.
decisions alone, unaided by their parents.
Yeah.
And so like stuff like that.
Right. I was so like hot when I got that email. I was like, love, we have to do something.
and other things, just like, I mean, from, you know, the fact that we don't have like adequate like paid family leave in our jobs. Like there's just so many things that sort of indicate to people that family is more of a problem than an asset. And what we want to try to do on this podcast, one is just encourage people who do want to have a family and who want to lean into this idea that having a family is good in sort of a private sense, but also make the argument that when people build strong families is not just to like the benefit of that one individual family, but it's actually it's a public asset. It's a public good. Strong families are good for communities, good for cities and states, good for the nation and the world. So that's kind of what we are trying to do.
Yes, it's like society is giving us little doses of discouragement around having a family, about raising a family and all of that. So we're here just to give you a big burst of encouragement
yes, and
about family.
And, you know, it's important to say that, like, when we talk about family and we talk about nuclear family, which is obviously something that we believe in, we're married, we have children, Woo-hoo! And we're excited about that, not ashamed of it. But we want to make sure that we point out that when we talk about family, we're not talking about nuclear family to the exclusion of,
exactly,
you know, folks who are not married, folks who
Right.
maybe you're married and you don't have children, can't have children. Like there are all types of ways to be in the world, and like we never want to come off as if we're saying like anybody is like less than fully human or less than fully realized if you're not like in a traditional looking nuclear family.
Right. Because everybody is, if you're a person, you are in a family. So the big goal is to encourage us to just lean into this family and lean into the family, because that has so much great potential for some of the big things that we face, the complex things that we face every day. And just our family can be a great solution for that. Hence the nuclear option.
Yeah. So we're just not shying away from the fact and the reality that like the nuclear family is a key building block, for a functional society. And you don't have to be against that if you're not doing that. But if you are doing that, you also don't have to be like afraid or ashamed of that. And society should be cheering us on. At least in my humble opinion.
On, right? And we're here cheering you on as well.
So we are going to be doing these episodes. They're not going to be super long because it's for families, and you don't have a lot of time to be sitting around listening to a podcast. And we don't have a lot of time to be sitting around recording a podcast.
We don't.
But we want to give you the good. So today we want to start with talking about something that is political. And it's appropriate to talk about on this first episode because I think it's also part of what activated us to want to be involved with this. Because we were just trying to homeschool our kids, help other families homeschool. And back at the beginning of the year, this piece of legislation dropped in our state of Illinois, in the state capitol. It was House Bill 2827, and it was a piece of legislation that was going to create like a registry of homeschool families. It was going to, it threatened, not even threatened, I mean, if it became the law, I guess it would be the law. But if you didn't file, your paperwork, you could be prosecuted, even jailed. What I consider to be like a massive infringement on sort of educational freedom, which is something I believe in. But also one of those things that just seem to miss this fact that families are, generally speaking, an asset to children, to education, to like society.
Right. And I think that was my biggest pet peeve about this whole introduction of it, is because to me it just undermined the fact that parents and children, like this is where the thing happens. Like this is where kids are able to thrive. This is the place where we should invest more resources, more attention, more support, more celebration, not kind of targeting and just, calling suspect, adding more just regulation and things to something that already is such a huge thing for society. So I think that, I mean, there were plenty of things that I was upset about, just as an education background and all of it. Mm-hmm. But I think that bill was just such a, I want to say the whole underlying issue of it was like, hey, is something wrong with families? Like, let's kind of come against that. So didn't appreciate that at all.
So maybe one thing that was sort of exciting for me, even though this bill was like a real, like a genuine threat, was to see like people get to see what I see like on a regular basis, like because I think your leadership kind of really came forward. Like you were excited about the. I mean, excited is probably the wrong word. You were upset, genuinely. But
activated. I like that.
You got activated. Like you got out there. You were like doing radio and TV. You went down to the Capitol to testify.
I sure did.
So like, how did that feel like as like a mom, a homeschool mom trying to do your thing?
Oh my gosh.
Here you are.
Right. I feel like it was, how they talk about the protective mama bear, instincts. I think up until then, I was just more like, hey, just trying to, help my kids, support families, keep it local and under wraps and all of that. But when that kind of came up, I was so personally, I felt so just not even offended isn't even a best word. I think I felt like just something in me was like, this is not, like, we have to speak up. We have to push back. We have to know that like the way that they're putting this forward is just not what it is. And this is such a bad road to get down on, because it's not even about what it was today. Because at the end of the day, it really was like a little declaration paper or whatever. And that's what I kept saying. It's just a little form. But I was like, this form has so many implications for not just homeschooling families, but families in general, and the resources they would be using out of the public. So like, it was so many things that I think if we just continued on that path, and the mentality behind it, which is like, let's start to infringe on families and personal lives and livelihoods and directions. And I've always been a huge advocate for families to feel, and parents to feel empowered to do what they feel like they need to do for their children, especially when it comes to education. Like, you know your children better than anyone else does. You are with them. Like, you know what your family needs. You don't need the school board to tell you what your family needs. You know them. But I'm like that across the board. Like, even at the doctor's office, like, they're like, well, I think that I'm like, I'm with them. I know that this is not the case, or I know this is the case, and you need to look into that. And I just really see myself as an advocate for my children. But I think that it's not just unique to me. I think that parents, like, we know our families. We live with them day in and day out. And I have friends who are doctors, and that's what they know that too. They're like, you know, they rely on the patient to be able to give them more information, because they're only with them for that 30 minutes or 45 minutes that they're sitting down with them. So I just think that we need to, you know, really dive in there. But yeah, so I definitely just felt like we were getting on the wrong track. And I'm like, oh, no, not for this generation of families that are rising, you know.
Yeah. I mean, and it was kind of crazy for me, because I've spent my career doing politics.
Yes.
And so, like, I used to work in Springfield, all that kind of stuff. And I was kind of like shocked a little bit. Maybe shocked is the wrong word, but surprised for sure. Because I was like, you know, I've tried to organize people. Like, I've organized marches and all that kind of stuff, tried to get people to come down to Springfield to talk to their legislators. But man, I'm talking about, because the first time you went down to like the cherry pie day thing,
right.
I didn't go. But I saw some of the pictures. And then the next event, I actually went down there with you. And I was like, these people are out here.
Right.
Like, y'all mess with these homeschool moms.
This is the wrong crowd. Absolutely. There were literally thousands of people in the Capitol. And I'm talking about kids, families, like little kids, little babies, nursing babies. They are not playing. But I'm happy to see that, because I know that we're not alone in thinking and knowing that this is something that needs to be protected. We don't need to hand this over to the government as well. I think the government is helpful in the places that it needs to be, but it doesn't need to, you know, just insert itself into parents, you know, and caring for their children and things like that. Yeah. And to just insert themselves willy-nilly.
Yeah, and so this legislation was, we should say it was defeated, at least in this legislation session.
Defeated.
So we got the W. But this is part of like a national strategy.
Right. So if you're not in Illinois, don't feel like, well, you know, we're talking about something that's foreign to you, because this actually is a national agenda for sure. And
it's like, it's targeting homeschoolers, but I also like to remind people that it's targeting like family center education, because if you go down this road, it continues to perpetuate something that I think we already see in our public schools a little bit, or maybe a lot of bit, but it's this idea that like parents and families don't have much to offer in the way of like education. Like, you got to be in charge of just like, you know, feed them and clothe them.
Right.
But teaching them, you know, you leave that up to, you know, the quote unquote expert.
Yeah, kind of attacks just the whole parental engagement and family engagement piece, which is literally the missing factor when it comes to, you know, public schools and just anything. Like, if you can see where there's a low family engagement rate, like, we'll see so many other kind of unhelpful trends happening. So it's so important to keep families engaged with their children, with you know, just engaged with one another, because we see some great fruit there. And so definitely want to lean into that. Another reason why we're doing this podcast of the nuclear option.
Yes. But we don't want to keep you talking about politics the whole time. I could talk about politics for a very, very long time. But we don't want to talk about politics the whole time here. We talk about the practice of family and, how to, what does it look like to do family well?
Right.
Not that we're like experts on that. We just get a lot of reps because we have a lot of kids.
Not a lot. Some people have like 12 kids.
That's true.
We only have 6. We only have 6.
If you're out there and you're listening to this and you're like, bro, you have 6 kids, you were just getting started.
Right.
I apologize.
We did. The families we know who had like 10 and 12 kids are like, oh, this is just your starter family. Yeah, so we only have 6.
In my immediate circle, we have like the most kids. So I feel like we get a lot of reps. But anyways, you've been doing something with our kids that seems to be a little bit helpful. Why don't you tell us about it?
Oh my gosh, this is so fun. I'm so excited about it. So I'm always thinking about like how to engage the kids more with just our faith and just establishing their own relationship with the Lord. And so it was just, I've just been... I always think about that and look for resources of that. I was actually reading Dwell Differently, which was I love that. We enjoy that. Mm-hmm. But it's, scripture memory. But the founder there, she was suggesting something she does with her kids called Coffee House, just encourage the relationship with the Lord. And so I was like, let me try this out. And so the kids and our kids get up early, right? Mm-hmm. Actually, we have they get up, they're all together. Some sleep up.
A long range.
Right.
We have like from 14 down to 18 months now. So if you have kids,
he's 19 months, or maybe he's 20. So, I think he's 19.
Almost
months. 2. Right. That's good.
He's also kid number 6. I feel like somewhere in there you stop counting months. So.
Right. Exactly. So anyway, but some of them wake up really, really early. Some of them wake up regular time. Some of them wake up a little late in. But but a lot of times when they wake up in the morning, because we are just avid early morning devotion people. I mean, you're really, really early devotion people. He's up before Jesus is up. I'm just kidding. No, but you're definitely up like with the sun or before the sun, right?
Usually.
Yeah, you're up before I
the
wake up.
Sun,
I'm sure you are, right? So I'm up somewhere around 6:10 or something like that. But which is great. But sometimes the first kid wakes up at like 6:21, and I'm like, I only had 11 minutes of my time with the Lord, and so I'm like in the middle of my devotion. So I've always, tried different things to get them into their, their own devotions. But anywho, the other day, so we started what we call Butler Cafe. And I kicked it off with the kids. They love it so much. And so I really recommend it. It's so fun. So I told them that we have all these different options for specialty drinks, so they can order that, they bring their Bibles with them to order, but they order whatever they want to drink. So I have chocolate milk, or chocolate pea protein milk. We have mint water, we have lemonade, tea, and they can just kind of choose what they want to have. And so they love it. They choose their drink, and then they go into their quiet spaces around the house and they take their time with the Lord. Some of them are doing devotionals. Some of them are doing studies. Some of them are just drawing a picture about the Bible story they heard yesterday. But it is such a great time for them to just continue to practice what they do. And we just have this, because I've always said, like, guys, the morning time is a quiet time. We can just take the time to just sit quietly with the Lord, to get started with, quietly into our day, and, have a time of, peacefulness. Yeah. And so I love that. And I think just as some of the younger ones are starting to get caught on with that, this was just a wonderful thing for them. And then it also is a helpful thing. It helps me to be able to make breakfast without them, hounding me for, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, what are we having, blah blah blah, can I have this, so this is a really nice thing. So they have their quiet devotions, and I make breakfast, and about the time they're done, breakfast is ready, and it's great. And then the ones who sleep a little later, it helps them to be like, I don't want to miss Butler Cafe.
Because they like get excited to come up, because like I think part of it, like we kind of like serve them. Like, right. So we're like, they're on one side of the island.
Yeah,
and
like you can't come
you
on
got
this
like
side.
a barista and like, what's your order? And I'm going to fix it up
and
for
make
you.
it all cute. They get the glass cups as opposed to like a plastic cup. And then they also, we just don't do we mostly just do water at home. So I think this is a good way for us, for them to be like, I get to have a specialty drink. And it's cute.
So, I mean, I really like it because it's, it's like contemplative practice for kids. And it's really interesting that like all of our kids are engaging with it, whether it's the
3-year-old.
The 3-year-old or the 13-year-old.
She's not going to 14.
She's almost 14, but I will remind her until another month and a half about.
Unless we're trying to say, hey, you should be able to do this. You're almost 14 years old.
But yeah, so like, but the big kids, like they get with it all the way down to like, maybe the 1-year-old is.
But lucky for us, he actually doesn't wake up until breakfast is already ready, so that's great.
But definitely the 3-year-old, like he has to get his little drink. He has to draw his picture. But even when the 3-year-old is drawing a picture about the Bible story that he heard yesterday, it is like contemplative practice. And so to me, like that's the exciting part, like to be able to create some space for them where they're like willing to sit quietly, to read something, to have a reflection. And like this morning, was it this morning? I guess it was this morning. But I kind of like just went and sat with a couple of, especially like the bigger ones, and just asked them about what they were reading and stuff like that, which is easy to do because they're like sitting there with their little drink, and I made a coffee. It was kind of beautiful.
It was so nice. I love it so much. It's really happening. But no, I'm grateful. So grateful.
So in this last little portion, we have a few minutes left that we can chat. And when it comes to talking about the promise of family, and this, since this is our first episode, I'll say like this is where we really want to just like highlight places where you can see it, like where you can see that family is making a difference. It's doing what it do. And so we were looking at this article from the Atlantic. It was actually written in 2023, but they just updated it. With a little bit of new information. This article is from Faith Heal at the Atlantic, and I had a portion of it that I wanted to read, but I guess
you have to tell us the title of it first.
Past it. Well, the title of it. You tell us the title of it because you remember the title of it. It's called The Great Cousin Decline.
I don't have that pulled up. There we go. The Great Cousin Decline, and basically the article kind of asserts that as that the reality is that more and more people are having fewer and fewer children. And so, of course, we know the thing of that, like, if we keep at this rate, the older population be outnumber the younger population. We know that it, all the things I've suggested. But what they're not talking about, as this article puts forward, is that they're not talking about how this impacts cousins. So that means people have fewer cousins than they did a generation ago or the generation before that. So, whereas before maybe people would have cousins, like 20 different cousins that are first cousins. Now it's somewhere much lower, 5, 6 cousins.
Because if all families are having fewer kids, then like the number of siblings is dropping, but the number of cousins, because it's at the multiple, right. is dropping more precipitously.
Right. But why does this matter?
And so here's this, the piece I wanted to read from this Faith Hill article in the Atlantic. She writes, compared with siblings, cousins tend to have larger gaps in socioeconomic status and might grow up in different home environments. In childhood, that can make them good role models, more likely to differ from you and your siblings in ways that could be eye-opening. And in adulthood, given that many people find friends who are similar to them, extended family can provide a rare opportunity to have your opinions challenged. And that really grabbed me because I think that is a tremendous value to cousins, and it made me think about like, is that part of like sort of the kind of division politically, socially, culturally that we're seeing in our society?
Right.
Is that like folks don't have enough cousins?
Yeah, right.
Because it's much easier to have like a cousin who has a different political view from you, or just like a different take on stuff.
Exactly. Or just different life experiences, or maybe they live in a different part of the world, because as they were saying, like the average cousin, like, what was this?
It was when like they were 200,
saying, 30 miles or something. Yeah. And so they just literally have a different perspective. But the cool thing is they have this shared reality, or this shared, like they feel connected to the same family. So they understand each other, but they also are completely different from each other, but they understand each other. And so it's like, even if you don't spend all day, every day with them, y'all get each other, and you feel connected. You have this bond that, just kind of that connects you by blood, but you also have, you have very separate lives. And so it was just really good. It was just explaining how just those things can, just shape a person, and it can be a wonderful relationship. It can be very fruitful, because we bring our differences, but we feel so kind of safe and heard and seen and all of that. Yeah.
And so that sort of preservation, I guess, of family. If you read the Faith Hill article, you'll see that it sort of implies that, like, the more we lean into family and try to preserve some of that texture of what family really brings, one, it can make us more well-rounded people. Because he talked about how the cousin relationship is also like a same generation relationship versus like having these intergenerational family relationships, with your grandparents or your parents. There are like different type of power dynamics that take place there. She talked about even sibling relationships can sometimes be like a little tough because of the intimacy.
Right.
You don't necessarily want to like, be beefing with your brother or sister.
Exactly. Right. Because with siblings, you get in the weeds so much. It's like, well, like they can, there's so much more room for bickering about different things, even when they're smaller, like, well, the kids, I want to sit in that seat, or I want to, I don't know, go here or whatever. Whereas when you're an adult, even it can change into other things, like who's going to help care for this person who's, that's aging, and how are we going to handle this event that we have to plan together for our parents, and those are kind of some things that can cause some, just some internal conflict. But cousins they're not that close. They're not in the weeds of the stuff. So they don't have that much tension, I guess, or potential for tension, but they do have shared relationships and shared maybe values, and they still feel very connected to each other. But it can, just create, just security that is present, and that is different from a friend. It's different from a, colleague or something. It's someone that feel close to, but there's not a ton of room to, it's like the article said, you don't have the thing of like lending money to your cousin. That's not really a thing. And then society doesn't really have an expectation on cousins. There's no real, like, we don't see TV shows about how the correct way to, we see a lot of stuff, with ideas about how family should be, how a sibling should be, how a parent should be, but not a lot about how a cousin should be. So it's not a big demand. So it kind of can happen organically. There's no real expectation about what it needs to be. And so it is what it is. And it usually can be very fruitful. So,
yeah. One other thing that I wanted to point out from the article, because she also talks about how cousin relationships become really valuable in times of crisis.
Right.
So, she talks about, like, if a parent passes away, she brought up a lot of, or some data from, like, COVID, how cousins were, like, some of the key relationships that were kind of there for people in COVID. But, like, a cousin is that kind of person, like, you don't have to have the responsibility of, like, this super intimate relationship. Like you were saying, like, I gotta lend you money, I gotta, like,
just all the expectations,
like all the things that come with relationships. I know shade on like sibling relationships. I hope my siblings listen to this podcast, and I love my siblings.
I love my siblings too, and we have things that we have to talk through and figure out.
But like a cousin can just like show up in a time of crisis and really be there, because they do get a lot of the dynamics of who you are. At least in context, right? Because they understand your tribe, they understand your clan,
right?
They understand like the sort of like decades of like interconnecting relationships that have shaped you and made you who you are.
Right.
They share DNA. they might look like you a little bit.
Yeah.
And so they can show up in those times where like somebody else who you haven't talked to for a while may not be able to like just show up in the middle of your crisis and be like a genuine presence. But cousins.
Absolutely. Right.
Cousins can be there for
So yeah, they can definitely just support each other, help each other. There's so many benefits to cousins. Our kids have a lot of cousins. Literally, my brother and his wife, they have 5 girls that are the same age as our 5 boys, and then also my other brother's children. Their kids are pretty much the same age as our kids, so they just get to see each other. My sister has a son who's really, they're all just kind of in the same age, and they just love each other so much. And so I'm so excited to see just how, as they continue to grow, even the ones that they don't get to see all that often, they have this shared, kind of origin, and it's pretty cool. I have a question. Do you think that fictive kin can that be like, because we have like play cousins? You had play cousins growing up, right? I had play cousins.
Yeah, and I think it does, because I think that's like one of the things I love about like the family as a sort of public good is that it sort of models relationships that we need to be like whole and well. So like even if you're not like married, like you still need like intimate friends.
Yeah.
And those are going to be relationships that you just can't have a whole lot of because of the amount of like emotion and time you have to invest in it. And so I think play cousins can play something of a role in this.
I think play cousins typically happen because they're your parents' good friends, and your parents' good friend has a child. Absolutely. And so I think it's not like we connected because we're just alike, but it's so we get that same thing, a dynamic with cousins. Like we're different. I don't know if you were at my school, I don't know if we'd be friends. However, our parents are really
parents
connected.
Are so close.
Right. So then we feel like cousins. So I definitely have those play cousins, love them so much, and super close to them too.
Yeah.
But I think we get that.
Yeah.
That benefit there too. So yay for the play cousins.
Yeah. And so I love this. I hope people, maybe folks might go check out the article, but certainly just think about cousins. I feel like it made me think differently because I don't think, like, I've thought a lot about and written about like the birth rate decline.
Right.
But the impact on these cousin relationships is not something that I think about all the time. But I certainly experienced it. Like I was in Denver.
Oh yeah, you did
in June.
Yeah, you got to see your
like I hung out with
cousins.
some of my cousins, and these like I live in Chicago, they live in Denver. I don't see them all the time, but like we definitely were able to like get together, like, and just like there's like a something there that is like it's rich, it's palpable, it's
Absolutely.
real, and so it was really interesting to see that come out in the public discourse. So love your cousins. That's the
yes.
The moral of this story is like protect these family relationships and lean into your cousins.
Yes. That was so great. I loved it. That was so good, love.
What a great inaugural podcast episode.
Yes. One down. Join in again with us, guys. This was our first one and more to come.
Absolutely more to come.
So keep loving each other.
Hold on to truth.
And harness your power.
We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.